Hi, Rose. Thank you for the email. I apologize for the informal setting and the poor sound quality associated with this video. I was originally planning on responding to your email when I got to my office this morning, and so I got to my office around 8 o'clock this morning, and I forgot that today is Juneteenth, which is a holiday that OTC only started to recognize a couple of years ago, and it's still not part of my internal calendar yet. So I had forgotten that today was the college holiday. So I drove to campus with the intention of putting in a full work day, and campus was closed. And so I normally don't work on college holidays, but today was a day that I had already decided was going to be a full work day for me anyway. So I'm going to be working from home today, and so I'm recording from a room in my home, and it has bad acoustics. So I do again. I apologize not only for the informal setting. I apologize for the bad acoustics, but let's get to the email. Your email was asking about the difference between metaphysics and ontology, and there is a difference. It's nuanced, and it's oftentimes the difference is so subtle that it's lost on 100 level students, and so good on you for asking the question. So ontology is a branch of metaphysics. So any ontological issue is going to be a metaphysical issue by default. Any question about ontology is going to be a question about metaphysics by default. So all ontological issues and questions are metaphysical, but not all metaphysical questions and issues are ontological. So we can think of metaphysics, the second part of the second sentence, or the third sentence rather. No, second sentence. Third question, the third sentence of your response. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble focusing with my glasses here. See, I figured I should just ask, that was the second sentence. So on metaphysics and ontology, they are interchangeable, or is ontology a branch of metaphysics? Ontology is a branch of metaphysics. Now, just to offer some further clarification, metaphysics at the most general level is a question about reality, about what exists. So an example of a metaphysical question would be something like, does God exist? That's a metaphysical question, right? It's not a question that can be answered by science. It's a question that can be answered by philosophy, or it can be attempted to be answered by philosophy. I should be more careful with my words there. And so the same thing with does the soul exist? That's a metaphysical question. Again, it's not a question that science can answer within its epistemological framework. Does free will exist? That's another example of a metaphysical question, right? Again, it's not something that a scientist can answer. It's not framed within the realm of scientific inquiry, but it is framed within the realm of philosophical inquiry. So anytime you're asking a question, or if the issue is about the existence of something, that's metaphysics. It's a metaphysical question. It's a metaphysical issue. Now, there are ontological implications associated with how you would go about answering that question. So, to the question of free will, is there such a thing as free will, which is a topic we're going to be addressing in another week or two. Do we have free? Actually, I take that back. I think 2 or 3 weeks. Is there free will? So notice that is there something? Does this thing in question exist? That tells us that we're dealing with an issue in metaphysics. Now, how you answer that question, if you say, yes, free will exists, now it brings up this ontological question. So the ontological question would be, well, what is the nature of the thing that exists? So think in terms of the difference. You were asking about the different, whether you say, idealism, immaterialism, and materialism are both categories in ontology. Metaphysics. Those are, immaterialism is a metaphysical theory that has ontological implications. And this is where the subtle differences come in, and oftentimes those differences are lost at the level lost on 100 level students. So again, immaterialism, the name that we associate with Berkeley's theory, that is a metaphysical theory, but it is a metaphysical theory that has ontological implications. So too with materialism. Materialism is ultimately asking, attempting to answer the question of, are there objects? Do objects exist? Do rocks exist? Do tables exist? Do cats exist? Now notice that both Locke and Berkeley are going to be saying yes to those questions. Both Locke and Berkeley agree that tables exist, right? They both agree that cats exist. So they're answering in the affirmative to the same metaphysical question. Where they differ is in their ontology. What Locke is going to say is that tables and cats and chairs and mountains and cars, they're all physical things. So whenever we're asking about whether a thing exists, that's metaphysical. Whenever we ask about the nature of the thing that exists, now we're dealing with an ontological issue. We're still in the area of metaphysics, right? But we're just sort of narrowing it down. Metaphysical question, what exists? A subset of that metaphysical question is, what is the nature of the thing exists? That's the ontological issue. That's the ontological question. So for Berkeley is going to say, yes, I agree with Locke. Chairs exist, mountains exist, dogs and cats exist. But whereas Locke is going to say that those things, the nature of the reality of those things is physical. What Berkeley says is that the nature of the reality of those things is non-physical. Because why do I say that there is a dog? Why do I say that there are books behind me? Well, because I perceive them, right? I don't say that there is, a cup in my hand that I cannot perceive. I just say there's no cup, right? And the reason I say there's no cup in my hand is because I don't have any perceptual information that would lead me to say that, right? I don't see anything, I don't feel anything, I don't hear anything, so I do not have a perception. So we go back to Berkeley, esse est percepi, to be is to be perceived. That's the nature of the existence. And so what is the nature of the thing that I am perceiving? Well, it's not a physical thing. It's not a material thing. It's a non-material thing. And it's a curiosity of the textbook that it doesn't give a definition of ontology. It uses the word, but it doesn't actually define it. But we can sort of tease out a definition by looking at how the phrase ontological status is used by the author of your textbook. So we're on page 274 of the PDF, the section of the textbook that is devoted to an analysis of Aristotle's hylomorphism. And in particular, the highlighted passage here is talking about how Aristotle was criticizing Plato, in particular Plato's concept of the forms. And so I'll just read this. As Aristotle expressed it, we must take care not to mistake intellectual analysis for ontological status. And this is true for all of Plato's forms: redness, roundness, justice, beauty. So just taking beauty as an example, does beauty exist? That's the metaphysical question. Both Aristotle and Plato are going to say yes, beauty exists. But to that ontological question, what is the nature of beauty? Aristotle and Plato have divergent opinions there. Remember, what Plato is going to say is that beauty, as in the form of beauty, exists at the eternal ethereal realm of the forms. That there is this form of beauty, and that according to Plato, something can be said to be beautiful if it is participating in the form of beauty. So the Mona Lisa, on Plato's view, is beautiful only because the Mona Lisa, the thing that is beautiful, is participating in this other thing, this abstract form of beauty. So for Plato, the ontological status of beauty is non-material. It is ideal, right? We call Plato's theory of forms objective idealism, that there is this form of beauty which exists independently of anything that you and I can perceive through the senses. Aristotle criticized Plato for that, and that goes to that specific line right here, for he accused Plato of confusing intellectual analysis with ontological status. What Aristotle's going to say is, well, just because we can agree that beauty exists doesn't commit us to this thing called beauty. For Aristotle, beauty is something that is in objects. An object can be beautiful if it's shaped a certain way, and if we impose a certain degree of craftsmanship on it. It is in fact beautiful, and we can talk about the beauty of a statue. We can talk about the beauty of a landscape without being ontologically committed to this thing called beauty, right? So that's an example of how two different philosophers are saying yes to the same metaphysical question, is there beauty? But their ontology differs, just as we saw, Locke and Berkeley differ on, they would say yes to the same metaphysical question, are there objects? But they would differ in terms of their ontology. So now let me go back to your email. So making sure that I have spoken to all parts of your question. Is it accurate to say immaterialism and materialism are both categories in ontology? No, they're both metaphysical theories, and both of those metaphysical theories have ontological implications. There is an ontological structure associated with those metaphysical theories. But the theory of immaterialism itself, metaphysical. The theory of materialism itself, metaphysical. But again, they have an associated ontology that goes along with them. So can you say that they're metaphysical views? Yes, they're metaphysical views, again, with ontological implications. So I hope that my 12-minute analysis here, or 12-minute answer to your question, offered clarification rather than confusion. But let me know if you have any further questions. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close. I will ask you to enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll be in contact with you through the Canvas course soon.